Hello sewing people of the internet. Welcome back to another video in the long-term review series I'm doing on the Singer Heavy Duty Sewing Machine. In this video I'm going to answer a question that a few of you have asked, and that is this machine capable of hemming jeans? The bottom hem on a pair of jeans. As I understand it, I don't think I've ever actually hemmed a pair of jeans, but as I understand it, the big concern is the seam. There's a double felled seam that I'm not sure how many layers. Hi, it's Jason from the future here. I thought instead of just guessing, I would actually take a look here. So here's how this seam is constructed. The two pieces are sewn together initially. One side is cut a little longer than the other and folded over. And then that's folded down and sewn. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should be 4 layers. And then when you make the hem, you fold that once, so that's 8. Fold it again, and that'll be 12. So it is, if I'm understanding this correctly, it is 12 layers. I didn't get to the 12 the way I spoke offhand in the video, but it should be about 12 layers. Your mileage may vary. So 12 layers of denim at this point in the seam. The rest of it probably won't be any big deal. So I picked up a pair of jeans at a thrift store. Believe it or not, this is not my size. And I'm going to hem them on this machine. We'll see how it goes. And maybe we'll try on another machine just for comparison's sake. This isn't really supposed to be a shootout between machines, but I would like to see if this is better than other machines or just, the same. So anyway, let's get started. So before we start, I've got a denim needle, and I'm using this denim, the kind of gold denim thread. It's Gutermann polyester thread. I'm not really sure what the weight of it is. Someone actually gave me this thread, so I don't have any specs on it. But it's the kind of thread you would use to do this correctly. So I'm going to wind a bobbin. I actually have to change the needle, and then we'll get started. I'm not going to fill this all the way up because I don't really need this much thread. So. By the way, the other day I was listening to the Rip Stop on the Record podcast. That's the podcast of Rip Stop by the Roll. You'll find an affiliate link to them in the description. I've been an affiliate of theirs for some time and bought a lot of stuff from them and used it in projects. And I'm just curious if you happen to hear that on Rip Stop by the Record and that led you here, then let me know. The videos they linked are some older videos of mine, so I'm just curious if anybody was moved to subscribe or at least watch some more videos. So if that's you, leave me a comment, let me know. So I went and picked up some denim needles. I'm going to confess, I think much is made about using different needles for different jobs. There's probably a difference, and some people may be able to detect that difference, but I typically use universal needles for just about everything, including leather, but I'm not really specializing in any particular thing. I say that to say I probably could do this with a standard needle, but if I did and had any issues at all, someone would blame it on the needle, so just to eliminate that, I'm going to use a denim needle. If you're hemming some jeans at home and you don't have a denim needle, I'd probably just try it with a regular needle and see if it works. Supposedly these will deflect less, but I imagine a heavy-duty needle would be fine. This is a size 100 needle. This package also has some heavy-duty 110 needles. I'm guessing that would probably be fine too. So as I said, I don't believe I have ever hemmed a pair of jeans before. I have definitely hemmed one pair of pants for sure, and maybe others that I'm not remembering. So I might do this wrong. I don't have any training in alterations or anything. The point of this isn't whether I know how to do this. The point of this video is not whether or not I know how to hem jeans, it's whether this machine can handle this thickness of denim. So feel free to offer any constructive criticisms or corrections in the comment section below. And I also am aware that there is a trick, I think man sewing was where I saw it back a long time ago, a trick where you can hem jeans without taking this bottom seam off, where you like do like some kind of a fold, and I don't know. The reason for that is that this is reputed to be very difficult for typical home-based sewing machines to sew through these thick layers. So that's why that trick exists. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of that. I've never tried it. I just kind of like the idea of doing it this way. This is simple. But anyway, I've cut the leg of the jeans to the new length that I want, plus the seam allowance I would need for the double fold hem. So probably an inch is a good guess at what that would be. And I'm going to fold it over twice, and I guess I'm going to have to pin this in place, and then I'll sew it. So I'll spare you the details of me prepping this. Okay, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I don't love pins, so I used office binder clips instead. And now I'm going to just sew this down. My version of the Singer Heavy Duty came with a specific set of accessories, including this hump jumper, and I forget what Singer calls it, but most people I've heard it from call it a hump jumper. I might end up using that. I've never used one before, so bear with me if I don't know what I'm doing. But and I'm going to take that thing off and make this free arm, which will hopefully make this somewhat less difficult. I should be able to just slide this on here. Alright, I'm going to go with the longest stitch length. We're in straight stitch mode. Nope, that's buttonhole. Okay, now we're in straight stitch mode. The tension is maxed out. I want to make a quick note. Someone in the comments section recently commented that there is a secondary adjustment that can be accessed by removing this end panel and adjusting something here. If that did exist at some time, it does not appear to exist on my machine. So if I'm missing it, I'll report back if I find it again. But I took this off and looked very carefully, and I can't find what he was talking about. So if anyone knows any more about it, I'd love to hear. But as far as I know, the tension is completely maxed out as it is. So, all right, let's give this a try. So I went ahead and put the hardest part first, and that's that 12 layers on the double felled seam. And I'm very doubtful that it's just going to sew up this on its own. So I'll try using the hump jumper and see if that helps, but I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm going to try it without it and see what happens. Okay, so the penetrating power, yeah, I'm not knocking this machine, by the way. This is definitely challenging. Oh boy, that didn't sound good. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to hand stitch. It's actually feeding it pretty well. Better than I would have expected, actually. So I was having some needle deflection that was stopping it from going into the needle plate, but I'm definitely missing some stitches now. Okay, so it skipped a bunch of stitches there right after the hump. So I'm going to rip this out and try it with the hump jumper. It fed over it much better than I might have expected, but it may not be able to get good stitches with that much foot lift over the work. That really did a lot better than I honestly expected. If you're watching this and think I'm gushing about this machine, if you haven't watched my previous videos on this machine, I did not want to like this machine and fully expected it to fall flat on its face, and so far it has not. So just know, like, I'm not biased towards this machine, but it is slowly winning me over. Alright, let's try this again. I'm not really trying to match the stitch lineup of what I already sewed because this is not for real. So I think I know how to use a hump jumper, but again, I might be doing it wrong. So there's two sides, one is thicker than the other. So I'm going to go with the thick one, I think. And I'm just going to hand wheel through this because the problem with you can give it enough momentum to force the needle through, and that's how you break stuff. So if I can't, like in a controlled way, get the needle to go through, then I'm just going to hand wheel it. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know if you can see that, but the whole needle bar is deflecting here. Okay. Went through that time, but and I think I don't know if I'm supposed to put this on this side now. Yeah, so the needle is deflecting enough. We're encountering resistance somewhere. I think it's deflecting and hitting maybe the needle plate. This is all, I mean, I've experienced this with every sewing machine I've had at one point or another, so I'm not terribly concerned at this point. I'm not sure why it's... So right now I'm not going through really any layers of fabric. It really feels like it's hitting the needle plate. It'll hit, and then eventually it'll find its way through. So I'm not sure it's possible that it got pushed out of position. Let's see how it goes now. All right, well, so it's working, but loads of skip stitches again on the back side, or the, I don't know what you call it, but the trailing edge of that seam, it skipped most of those stitches. So let me go around the whole thing now, and we'll come back to that difficult spot and see if we learn anything in the meantime. It seems to be functioning normally now, which is good. That means we didn't break anything. Or suggests that we didn't break anything. We're approaching the other seam, and that seam is a serged seam, so it doesn't have quite as many layers, but it's still pretty thick. So we'll see if it does okay on this. And again, I'm sincerely impressed that it climbed up that as well as it did. Here again. So again, on the downhill side of that hump, for lack of a better word, now it's impacting again. And And I'm guessing there's going to be some skip stitches. Now it's fine. I would say that most of this looks great, and actually it looks like maybe there was a skip stitch there. Honestly, if I were doing this for myself, that would be fine. But yeah, it looks like there was a couple of skip stitches on this side. Everywhere where it's just the standard double fold hem is completely fine. I mean, total non-issue. And here on this really thick part, yeah, in fact, I don't even think, yeah, I wasn't even getting through all the layers there. So it could actually be a little worse. I'll have to fold that better. But skip stitches, and definitely skip stitches on the downhill side. So sewing this way. I don't know if it would be easier going this way, but I don't know how I could set that up in the machine to do that. It would be very inconvenient. So it kind of needs to be able to do it either way. So if we stopped right now and just declared this experiment done, I would say that if occasionally you might need to hem a pair of jeans, you could do an okay job, and maybe you'd have to fix a couple of skip stitches here by hand or live with this or something. If you do alterations, as a side hustle or something, and jeans is a big part of it, I wouldn't run out and buy this machine to do it. Just for fun, let's try it on the Singer 201, which has quite a bit less power, and see if it does worse or the same or better, or what result we get. So I was moving the denim needle over to the Singer 201 and discovered you really almost can't see it even in person, but the needle is bent just barely. So I think on that one heavy strike, the needle probably deflected enough to impact the needle plate or something, and it's now bent just enough. So that's why it was hitting the needle plate sometimes, or whatever it was hitting over there, and not other times. So I'm going to take this needle out of circulation. I only have one other denim needle now, so hopefully we can avoid that happening again. Yeah, it's really hard to see, but it's just barely bent. So we'll set that one aside and try a new one. Okay, now we'll try the Singer 201. If you're not familiar with the Singer 201, it's widely regarded as one of, if not the finest domestic sewing machine ever made. However, it is not exceptionally powerful. It's very sturdy. It's very solidly built, but it's not particularly powerful. So I'm not expecting it to excel at this, but we will see. I guess we'll go over the easiest hump first. And it's not a free arm machine, so this might be a little bit more of a challenge, but we'll see. Right. Oh. Duh. This is what happens when you have too many sewing machines. I had this needle put in with the thread going front to back, and that's not how it goes in this machine. The Singer 201 threads from right to left. It's really unusual. All right, let's try that again. I'm glad that's better. Like I said, I'm not expecting this to excel at this task, but I assumed it was going to do better than that. This is smallest of the two big humps. Okay, so definitely not feeding as well as the heavy duty did. So I'm just going to advance it manually. I fully expect it to skip a stitch there. And it did skip 1 or 2 stitches. We'll look at it in a second. So let me zoom you in here. So I talk a lot about walking foot sewing machines and my preference for them on this channel. And this is a good example of where a standard drop feed or non-walking foot machine is challenged, because the foot is actually going underneath this fold on this hem. So there's just no way that I could just sew right over this without stopping or slowing down or hand wheeling or raising the presser foot. You can get it done, and if you only do this kind of thing occasionally, it's not that big of a deal. But if you encounter this sort of a seam regularly in your sewing, this can get pretty frustrating. So I'm just going to advance another stitch, and then I'll raise the presser foot and try to get this edge under it. I might not even be able to, actually. Got to remember to put the presser foot back down when you do this. I want to point one other thing out. I'm using the hand wheel. I'm certain that this is not going to penetrate under the power of the motor. And even if it could, I want to have sufficient control over it, so this is a good time to use the hand wheel. But it's not difficult to turn the hand wheel and get this needle to go through these layers of fabric. And again, this is something I've kind of talked about a lot. You know, the power of the machine usually isn't the problem that holds it back. It's the ability to feed. And I have to say, I am pretty impressed with the heavy duty's feeding ability for a standard drop feed non-walking foot machine. So again, I fully expect this to skip a stitch. The foot is elevated above where the actual fabric is at this point, and I don't fully understand the mechanics of it, but that could have an impact on the tension or the how much tension is on the upper thread when the hook goes past it. There's a loop that's formed by the needle coming up, and physics or whatever, I think this creates a situation where that loop isn't big enough for the hook to catch it or something. So I fully expect there to be a skip stitch or 3 here. And now that we've gotten back to normal, it should return to normal stitch and everything should be fine. So I would say that the 201 did not perform as well as the heavy duty in this particular circumstance. I don't know that I would say it performed poorly. The stitch length is short. Even on the rest of the hem, where I don't have those ridiculous layer counts, the stitch length is shorter than I think it should be, and there's definitely some irregularity in the stitch length. There were a couple of times when these binder clips hung up on the bed of the machine, so that could be that. Again, I think if you had a pair of jeans that you just needed to hem and you already have a machine like this, no need to run out and buy something else. You can get through it. And really, how often are people like down on their hands and knees scrutinizing the hem of your jeans? Like, this looks good enough, no one is likely to notice. There is, however, some stitch irregularities on the bottom side. Some of this was caused because I foolishly forgot to put the foot down one time, and just the mechanics of going over such a big hump like this. Not sure what happened here. So, you know, definitely you might have to go back and try it again, make some adjustments, but yeah, it could work with this machine. But yes, I would say the heavy duty did better than this particular machine. All right, let's get a little bit crazy here. So this is my Sailrite ultrafeed LSZ1 with the worker bee motor. This is an unfair comparison. I want to be fully transparent. The last time I used this machine, I was running V138 thread, a really, really thick thread through it. Really thick for the kind of stuff I normally do. And I had to make some adjustments to get it to work, and so I needed to adjust that out of it. So I've already done some testing on a scrap piece of this and know what the results are going to be. So, and I will go ahead and tell you ahead of time, it sews over the hump super easily, but still has some problems with tension and skip stitches on the downhill side of that hump. So I will demonstrate that for you, and then you can at least be armed with the knowledge about whether or not this might be an option for you. The testing I did was on the original hem on those jeans, which was quite flattened and softened, so the results might be a little bit different with this fresh hem here, but let's see how it goes. I've turned the speed on the worker bee speed adjustment down quite a bit, so I don't have to worry about it running away from me. Alright, so we're coming up on the big hump. We'll just do that first and get it out of the way. Yeah, so even the Sailrite can't quite get over that hump. Again, this is just folded over. On the very first test I did, I hammered that flat. I don't know if that made any difference or not, but as you can see, we're able to sew through under power and not have to hand wheel, so I can hang on to this, stretch it out, have a little bit better control over it. But not sure that it's going to change the end result. We'll see. Yeah, definitely same skip stitches, maybe two. So it's pretty good up to the hump, and then just one or two skip stitches there. In fact, they might just be a long stitch. Yeah, it's just long stitches. It's not actually skipped, so that's good at least. But still, there's definitely looseness there. If that were to get snagged, it could easily tear. It's not an ideal stitch. So what, if anything, did we learn? I learned that hemming jeans is a lot harder than I might have thought. By the way, I can't remember if I said this earlier. I bought these at a thrift store, and I just picked the thickest denim I could find. There might be thicker denim than this that is even more difficult, and there's certainly thinner denims that might not be as difficult to sew. And as I said, at one point I hammered the hem just literally with a hammer to try to flatten it out. I also just noticed this. Let me show you something. To the best of my knowledge, this is the factory seam. And as you can see, they've folded it so that it's offset a little bit. So that certainly would help some. Kind of wish I would have noticed that earlier. But this video is not about how to hem your jeans. Obviously, I am not the person to advise anyone on that. But how this machine performs at doing it. And the best I can tell you from this experience is it is no worse than any other machine and better than some. The Sailrite obviously has a huge advantage in power and the ability to feed, but in the end it really doesn't seem to make that much difference, at least in my experience trying this, not knowing really what I'm doing. There are certainly situations, many situations I've encountered where something like the Sailrite or any walking foot sewing machine is a huge advantage, but in this circumstance, I think if you're going to hem jeans, again, once in a while, any sewing machine would probably be fine, and the Singer Heavy Duty seems like it would be perhaps a little bit better than some other choices. I have a whole bunch of other machines. I could keep doing this all day long, but the question that was asked was, can this handle sewing the layers of denim in a hem? And I guess the answer is kind of. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, clicking like is always a nice thing to do, and if you're not a subscriber, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. In the description below, there are a bunch of links you can check out, including some affiliate links. If you buy things through those links, I will make millions upon millions of dollars one day. You can also check out my second channel, The Jason Wins, where I show you all the things I'm doing when I'm not sewing. And also you can follow me on Instagram if you are on that platform. Probably the next video that you will see after this will not be specifically about the Singer Heavy Duty. I have an idea that I think will be interesting, so maybe keep an eye out for that. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. There's going to be a quiz. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. So I just wanted to try a best case scenario. I offset the thickest part of the seam, hammered it down to flatten it, sewed it from the back side. That gave me the best approach angle over this thicker section. And it did okay, not perfectly straight here, and just a little bit of pull the bottom thread up. I could have maybe adjusted the tension a little bit to avoid that, but certainly good enough for hemming a cheap pair of jeans that you bought or something, but also certainly not the same as whatever machine they used in the factory to make these jeans. I'm not going to bother doing this on any of the other machines. If I got that result on this machine, then I don't think anything is going to do any better, but I just thought that was interesting. I guess if I was going to hem my own pair of jeans, this is probably the way I would try to do it.